White,
he sneered.
It serves as a beginning. White cloth may be dyed, the white page can be overwritten, and the white light can be broken. In which case it is no longer white, said I. And he that breaks a thing to find out what it is has left the path of wisdom.
When the wizard Saruman's treachery is finally revealed to Gandalf and Orthanc, the White Wizard states he is now Saruman of many colours, claiming that white can be dyed, overwritten, or broken. Gandalf the Grey responds with the damning statement that it is then no longer white, and that breaking a thing to find out what it is means leaving the path of wisdom. In this video, I will explore this remark, explain what is meant by Saruman's new title, and just what the wizards are talking about during this fascinating confrontation. The Lord of the Rings tells us that when maybe 1,000 years had passed in the Third Age, and the first shadow had fallen on Greenwood the Great, becoming known as Mirkwood, the wizards appeared in Middle-earth, the Istari. It was later known that they were Maiar, servants of the Valar out of the Blessed Realm. They were sent to contest the power of Sauron through uniting his enemies against him, forbidden to match his power with their own, and forbidden to dominate elves or men by force and fear. Saruman, as told by Gandalf, was great among the wise, chief of the Order, noted for his skill in ring lore and arcane knowledge, and being head of the White Council, containing eminent figures such as Elrond, Galadriel, and Círdan. Yet in Middle-earth he fell from his high errand, and Tolkien tells us that he became proud, impatient, and enamoured of power, seeking to have his own will realised by force to oust Sauron, but he became ensnared by the spirit mightier than he. Meaning, by the time we are introduced to Saruman, he has already fallen, and we do not witness the figure of great wisdom and knowledge. He has become an aspiring tyrant, hoping to replace the greater tyrant. A reason I think this conversation between the wizards is one of the most fascinating in the entire tale is that it can be interpreted in many ways. It is possible to read some kind of scientific principle in Saruman's words here, the breaking of the white light, as decomposed with a prism. This attitude then makes Gandalf's response seem like a fear of progression, or understanding of the natural world, as there is beauty to be found within those colours that form the breaking of the white light, and knowledge, an understanding of just what makes that white light. Saruman is speaking of white as something analogous to blank or plain. It serves as the beginning. You can write on the blank page, and dye the plain unadorned cloth. White, to Saruman, must be added to provide greater worth, arguably inferior to what can be made from it and what comes after. A book with blank pages may be beautiful to look at, but what is written on the page is what interests Saruman. White is the raw material for the creation of something better, a tool for knowledge and the display of wisdom in the mind of Saruman. This all seems logical to Saruman, and Gandalf's laconic response angers Saruman in its simplicity, in which case it is no longer white. To Saruman, this is illogical and foolish. Are the rings of power, or the Palantiri, no longer the materials used to make them in the first place? Such devices only becoming possible due to pushing boundaries and limitations of mind and hand. Such wonders of creative skill wouldn't exist if desire and creativity were not put to use. But Gandalf is saying that white exists as a concept, representing purity and perfection. We can perhaps stretch this definition to goodness, authority and wisdom. It is worth preservation. Good by definition. It too exists to Gandalf as a beginning, but also an end. The change from white to many colours signifies power spoiling good intentions. It is the loss of purity, and a declaration that Saruman has now rejected the role and duty that brought him to Middle-earth in the first place. He may still fulfill what he sees as the most important part of his mission, defeating Sauron. But other restrictions and rules are now rejected. He is telling Gandalf that he is broken free from his chains, the limits placed upon him. The destruction of white and the adoption of many colours is the desire to know everything and rule all. The white robes representing a limiter regarding his perceived wisdom, skill and knowledge.
For I am Saruman the Wise, Saruman Ringmaker, Saruman of many colours. I looked then and saw that his robes, which had seemed white, were not so, but were woven of all colours, and if he moved they shimmered and changed hue, so that the eye was bewildered. I liked white better, I said.
When Gandalf speaks of leaving the path of wisdom, he is speaking of figures like himself and Saruman being able to use the gifts they have been blessed with, their inner power and given authority, to produce very real effects on the world, and that it can be something incredible when used properly. The world itself and its wonders were created in this way. Saruman is unfortunately not using his power and authority for good. He is using these gifts to break. He should not attempt to justify himself through supposed good motives, discovery, curiosity, order. He is well aware of his purpose in Middle-earth, the rules that have been set, and those who granted him the authority he enjoys. To Gandalf, Saruman is not only diminishing himself through his actions, but the order of the Istari as the head of that order, the one who should set the example for others, the ideal. By forcing his own will and ideas onto the world and its inhabitants, Saruman has strayed so far from the path that sent him across the sea. Such an abuse of his power and authority. He can do this with the free will that is gifted to all rational beings, but it is unwise and reprehensible to do it. Gandalf's wisdom comes from knowing that there is a difference when the pursuit of knowledge and the satisfaction of curiosity comes at the expense of something fundamentally good, or having a negative effect on others. It all ties in with this concept that is found throughout all of Tolkien's works, especially in relation to beings with greater will and authority, the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Comparing the two figures, Saruman can see that breaking something to find out what it is something that must happen to understand what that thing is. Progression and understanding, as I have said. Gandalf sees knowledge for the sake of it as useless if one does not know the difference between what is right and wrong, what is good and evil. Progress through destruction blurs the lines between right and wrong, even for a greater good, such as the defeat of Sauron. Saruman was reaching, or had already reached, a mad scientist stage, where the lives of others and their freedom, their choices, were expendable in the pursuit of his own knowledge, power and designs. He sees the ends justifying the means, and if other lesser beings, dwarves, men or even elves, suffer for the greater good in his own mind, it was worth it. When he no longer has to hide his motives from Gandalf, he speaks of the designs not changing, only the means, telling us that he still aims to remove the greatest threat to Middle-earth, but it will be through his own rise to power.
We can bide our time. We can keep our thoughts in our hearts, deploring maybe evils done by the way, but approving the high and ultimate purpose. Knowledge, rule, order. All the things that we have so far striven in vain to accomplish, hindered rather than helped by our weak or idle friends. There need not be, there would not be, any real change in our designs, only in our meat. Saruman.
So in the pursuit of knowledge, Saruman has abandoned wisdom. Saruman the White, now of many colours, only speaks of knowledge, rule and order, with no mention of wisdom, one of his former defining traits, included in the list of things that the wizards have apparently striven in vain to accomplish. Again, the designs won't change, just the means. He is more than happy for others to make sacrifices, even in death, to accomplish his own designs, elevating himself to a position of authority he was never supposed to obtain. A dictator, a tyrant over other wills, head of an ancient order that by rights should choose the path to follow. I once read Gandalf's words as perhaps reflecting Tolkien's own attitude towards the advancement of technology, of growing industry stretching its borders until it manages to permeate all aspects of our world. But I see that within the scope of Middle-earth, Gandalf is right to chastise Saruman for his actions. His words are a warning to Saruman, his first attempt to sway him from the corruptive and dangerous path. It is not as simple as science is bad, but a warning of the pursuit of knowledge at the expense of wisdom. Knowledge at the expense of others. This was a remake of my very first video that I posted 1 year ago. I had planned for quite a while to do this, and I hope it shows the difference in quality, even in presentation, between my recent videos and my first efforts. I was able to add some new thoughts and wasn't in such a rush to read the script, and overall I think this is of far higher quality. Some other older videos will be remade in this way, due to quality issues or artwork copyright concerns, so look out for them in the future. I will take down older videos I decide to remake, but I've decided to leave my first video up, mostly for sentimental reasons. On screen you will see the new Patreon tiers and benefits available to those who currently support the channel and those looking to support the channel. I want to give a shout out to those who are supporting through the Valar tier. So thank you to Dovid Albright, Joel Bayan and Oliver Flanagan for your support of the channel, and thank you to everyone who watched the video.